Good evening. Today is Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, and we have a bunch of new updates on the spread of COVID-19 in mainland China since our last update. And let's just begin by reviewing some of the new press briefings since then, including from June 28th. So we can see that June 28th, things were going pretty well. My last update was pretty good. It showed that Shanghai and Beijing had relatively controlled the spread, and that, there were some minor clusters in Shenzhen and Macau, but that the Chinese government really looked as though they had been quite successful. And they had once again returned to zero COVID. We just had one new case in Guangdong on June 28th. But then things started to get a bit worse. You start seeing domestic cases in Jiangsu Province. And by June 30th, that is now up to 5 new cases in Jiangsu Province. Guangdong and Beijing, nothing too concerning in those cities as of June 30th. By July 1st, Jiangsu Province, which borders Anhui Province, is now causing a multi-provincial outbreak. You had 9 cases in Anhui Province and 1 in Jiangsu. And then by July 2nd, the number of cases is just skyrocketing. 38 indigenous cases, including 34 in Anhui. And you can see the virus slowly spreading to other provinces like Shandong, which reported 3 new cases on July 2nd. By July 3rd, 61 confirmed symptomatic cases in Anhui Province. And I'll tell more about this, but some drastic actions taken from the the provincial government there in Anhui Province. Cases in Shandong, Jiangsu, Shaanxi, and Shanghai. The outbreak in Shaanxi Province actually being so concerning that the city of Xi'an being put under a 10-day lockdown in response to the outbreak. And that's after the December 2021 lockdown that Xi'an had been put under. By July 4th, 28 new indigenous cases in Anhui, 4 in Jiangsu, 4 in Shandong, 2 in Shanghai, and then some new indigenous cases in Fujian Province, which previously had not really reported anything. Yesterday, July 5th, again, a lot of cases in Anhui, Shaanxi Province, home to Xi'an, continuing to report, some domestic cases, and Beijing and Shanghai now starting to battle the virus once again, which is really regretful in light of all the work they did in April and May and June 2022 to try and stamp out the virus. And then you see it again, July 6th, Anhui, 81 new cases. The measures that the city and the provincial governments took in Anhui Province really struggling to stop the spread. The number is only growing in Shanghai. You now have cases in Zhejiang Province. There's still these random cases in Shandong, and then now Shaanxi, again with Xi'an, but also Sichuan Province reporting its own domestic cases. So the situation really starting to spiral out of control a bit. And it's not being entirely clear how the Chinese government is going to respond to this. You can even see in terms of asymptomatic cases a bunch in Anhui, Jiangsu, Shanghai, Shaanxi, Fujian, Tianjin even, in Beijing, and Guangdong and Sichuan. So really a lot of different threats to China's zero COVID model at the moment. You can see this article here from the New York Times from yesterday, July 5th, 2022, how China was responding to the outbreak in Anhui Province. They had reported more than 200 cases in Suzhou City in Anhui, and the outbreak in the province had led to more than 1,000 cases in all of the province, and the government there taking some strict actions, according to Reuters. This Eastern China outbreak that they remark of, essentially the Yangtze Delta, seeing a sustained outbreak in Jiangsu and Anhui Province. You had the city of Wuxi, which is a manufacturing hub in the Yangtze Delta, essentially halt all operations at a bunch of public venues. They closed shops, they held supermarkets, they suspended dine-in services at restaurants and told people to work from home because they had reported 42 new symptomatic cases on the previous Saturday, which I believe is like July 2nd. And so they took some drastic actions there. You see Xi County in Anhui Province. They locked down their entire county and suspended public traffic. So essentially, the freedom of movement was suspended because of 288 cases on July 2nd. And Anhui really accounting for a very significant amount of the new cases in Anhui, or rather in mainland China. And there was also this move from Yiwu, which is an export capital for small commodities, canceling all flights to Beijing for an unspecified period because of 3 COVID cases in their jurisdiction. And this has only continued to spiral out of control. What with the resurging outbreaks now in Shanghai and Beijing. Today, July 6, 2022, residents in Shanghai and Beijing are once again subject to mandatory rounds of COVID testing. I'm not entirely sure if it's the entire city, but it's certainly sections of the city. You can see in Shanghai, a majority of the 16 districts have been ordered to conduct mass testing through at least tomorrow, which is Thursday, July 7th. And really, again, trying to just stop the spread of the virus. But nonetheless, Shanghai, Beijing really struggling to bring that back down to zero. You can see the suburb Shunyi in Beijing struggling as well. One of their compounds had to be put on lockdown due to the spread of the coronavirus. And then also here, Xi'an, all under lockdown due to the spread of coronavirus in Shaanxi Province. Restaurants closed to takeout only, public entertainment spots closed for a week starting today, and not ending until next Wednesday, July 13th. And then PBS reporting as well here about Macau's outbreak and how the famed Grand Lisbon Hotel has been locked down because of more COVID cases that were identified there. So really, just a significant number of issues right now for China's zero COVID strategy. You have Shanghai and Beijing. After months of this zero COVID model and strict lockdowns and testing that are still not able to fully stamp out the virus, you have Xi'an, who endured a significant lockdown this past winter and is now under lockdown again for 10 days. Macau, which has been struggling with this outbreak of COVID-19 and is locking down casinos, and unable, it seems, to still bring those daily case numbers down. And then you have the Yangtze Delta outbreak in Anhui and Jiangsu Provinces, with those lockdowns in those more remote parts of the country, but still nonetheless important manufacturing centers. And it remaining to be seen how Anhui Province is also going to stop the spread. This here also noting that Beijing is now rolling out its first ever vaccine mandate, which is the first to ever be introduced in all of mainland China. The deputy director of their municipal health commission saying that vaccines will be required to go to a live performance, an entertainment venue such as a movie theater, a museum, a gym, and whatnot. Really in an effort to get more people to get vaccinated. A lot of the elderly in China are unvaccinated, and this really trying to bring those rates up. Beijing, their elderly vaccination rate is 80%, and Shanghai is at 70%. So really trying to address that. It'll be interesting to see whether Shanghai and other Chinese cities follow in Beijing's footsteps after that decision. This is the decision yesterday from Macau from today, July 6th. They reported an additional 146 new cases, bringing the total number in this current outbreak to more than 1,000. So definitely Macau's largest threat to its zero COVID strategy during the entire pandemic, and the fact that a casino is being locked down, really a significant threat to Macau's economy, the casinos that are such a big part of economic life there. And then today, or rather, if you will, it's now July 7th, the morning of July 7th, in China. 22 new domestically transmitted asymptomatic cases in Shanghai. Local symptomatic cases rising to 32. And I'm sure some of those are from the July 6th, today's testing, and I'm sure we're going to find more cases as we go through July 7th and July 8th, because the testing will be continuing through Friday. And we're going to have to see is the Shanghai city government going to introduce more forceful restrictions to try and stamp out the new outbreaks and clusters that it finds in Shanghai? And are they going to be introducing new rounds of mass testing potentially over the weekend from July 9th through 10th or sometime next week? Because I imagine they're going to find even more cases in the coming days, and they're going to want to try and bring this once again down to zero COVID. The main test, though, is whether or not they can continue to keep it at zero COVID. But nonetheless, China here really struggling to maintain zero COVID once again. Things were looking good at the end of June and the very beginning of July. But now you have the Beijing and Shanghai outbreaks You have the Xi'an outbreak in Shaanxi Province. You have the Yangtze Delta outbreak in Anhui and Jiangsu Provinces, and now you have the Macau outbreak, which Macau is really struggling to bring under control. And of course, some minor little clusters in Shandong Province, in Guangdong Province, Fujian Province, Sichuan Province. It's really becoming a very difficult balancing act for the Chinese government. I think it will continue to put pressure on the Chinese government to abandon the zero COVID strategy, but I think that they will continue with it for the foreseeable future, especially at least until Xi Jinping and the National Party Congress that will be held later this year. But nonetheless, we're going to continue to follow the spread of COVID-19 in mainland China and the significant difficulties that the country's been facing over the past few months in its effort to stamp out the Omicron variant of COVID-19. That is the update here on Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. Thank you for watching.